Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Acharya Red Connect 2025, a premier online webinar series organized by Department of Medical Imaging Technology, Acharya Institute of Allied Health Sciences, in association with Indian College of Radiological Technology. I, Muriel, lecturer, Department of MIT, will be your host for today. Thank you all for joining us. Let me remind you that we have two speakers for today. So, without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker for today, Ms. Kaveri Sirdesh Pandey, a highly skilled MRI radiographer based at New Cross Hospital in Wolverhampton, UK. Ma'am has an impressive academic background, holding a master's degree in advanced neuroimaging from University College London, one of the leading institutions. Alongside her academic achievements, she has gained over 4 years of hands on clinical experience in the field, making her an expert in neuroimaging and MRI techniques. Ma'am is also a valued member of the Health and Care Professions Council, ensuring that she is always at the forefront of professional standards and patient care. Her dedication to the field extends beyond her daily work as she has contributed to the global knowledge sharing community by presenting her research and papers at several national and international conferences. Please join me in welcoming her. Over to you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and start the presentation. Okay, good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me, so good morning and good afternoon to you all. I am Kaveri, and I am an MRI radiographer here in New Cross Hospital, which comes under the Royal Wolverhampton NHS Trust. And I work as an MRI radiographer. And today I'll be talking about artificial intelligence in MRI. And specifically, we'll be looking into the Philips SmartSpeed AI, which is the newest addition of Philips. So just before I begin, is there anyone amongst you who can tell me how AI can help in MRI? I just need to know just maybe one word, a sentence of what do you think AI is and how do you think it will help us in radiology, or let's talk about MRI today. Okay. All right. So let's begin with what AI is. So we all know AI is artificial intelligence and how has it helped us in MRI. So when we talk about MRI, what do we mainly look at? We look at the scan time, we look at the image quality, and we look at the data consistency. So what happens when you introduce AI into MRI? You are speeding up your acquisition. So you're scanning in shorter times, but you're also maintaining the image quality, and you have your data consistent. So from a technologist point of view, you are reducing patient waiting times, and you're also reducing the patient's stress due to physical discomfort. So everyone here is happy. You as a radiographer, the radiologist who is going to report these images, and also the patient. So when I talk about AI, we have to talk about three main techniques, and these are known as the acceleration techniques. Let's start with sense, that is the sensitivity encoding, followed by compressed sense, and then smart speed AI. So sense and compressed sense are nothing but the ancestors of smart speed AI. What we'll be looking in detail is about smart speed, but I will have to give you a brief introduction of what sense and compressed sense is. Now, if you think a bit, and when I say sense, you might have something going on in your mind saying, I have heard this somewhere. So sense is originally a parallel imaging technique which is being used in MRI. So that is like the base of how they have created all of these acceleration techniques. So when I say sense, it's a parallel imaging technique which uses multiple receiver coils to acquire the data faster by undersampling your case space. So you're skipping lines in case space. So you're undersampling the data and then you're reconstructing it. But how does this help? So what happens, because you have different coils present, you have different receiver coils, all of these coils have different sensitivities to the same type of tissue. Because they have different sensitivities to the same tissue, it allows the reconstruction of the complete image from a lesser amount of data. Now, when we move on to compressed sense, it is a modification of sense, but how is it different? So in compressed sense, it is it is using even fewer data points compared to sense. But what is the difference? You're not skipping case-based lines. What you're doing is you're using something called as variable density undersampling. So when I say variable density undersampling, it means some areas in the case space are sampled more densely, whereas some areas are sampled less densely than others. And additionally, along with this kind of undersampling, it also uses iterative reconstruction and sparsity constraint. So just remember this term, sparsity constraint, because I'll be using this in the upcoming slides and I will explain you what it is, or at least I'll try and explain you what it is. And the third one is your smart speed AI, which is also known as artificial intelligence compressed sense. So let's see what is smart speed AI. So it is built on two main technologies. One is your compressed sense, which I just explained using your undersampling and iterative reconstruction along with sparsity constraint. And the second one is your adaptive compressed sense net. This is nothing but deep learning AI reconstruction. So because obviously we're talking about artificial intelligence, you should know that under artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, and under machine learning, we have deep learning. So adaptive CSNet is nothing but a part of artificial intelligence that helps in the reconstruction of your images along with using compressed sense. So what are the advantages of using the Philips Smart Speed AI? Productivity. So you're speeding up the scan time by almost 3 times. For example, here on an everyday basis, if we are scanning a knee generally takes around 15 to 20 minutes, but we scan it here within 5 to 7 minutes. So within a time slot where you used to scan one patient, you're now scanning 2 patients. So your patient waiting times are lesser and there is no stress. Second is diagnostic confidence. Now, although you are reducing the scan times, but you're not compromising on the image quality. So the images are diagnostically efficient. And third is patient accessibility. As I said, no matter how hard the patient is to deal with, it could be pediatric, geriatric, anxious patients, claustrophobic patients, first timers, there is no problem. Because you're using Smart Speed AI, it can help you most of the times. Now let's have a look into what the Philips Smart Speed engine is. So don't worry too much about the whole of the image. It's a bit complicated, but I'll try and explain everything. So your final image, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay, sorry. Right. So in order to get your final result, which is your image, this is your brain scan, right? In order to get that, you have a lot of other steps where you have your sampling pattern, then as I mentioned, the coil sensitivity, and you need your background information for your resolution, and finally the sparsity constraint, which I said I would be talking about. So let's go step by step. So in order to get your final result, first starts with your sampling pattern. So as I said, don't worry too much about any of the images. I'm just going to explain you in as generic. It's a generic explanation. So sampling pattern. So you're undersampling the case space, okay? And once you get that, the receiver coils are going to receive the information. So as I mentioned, they have multiple receiver coils, each coil having a different sensitivity. So that is why you see a difference in all of these images. Your background information is important for your resolution. So this is your low resolution background information. And finally, you have your sparsity constraint. So you can see two different images here. The first one states it's a wavelet-based sparsity constraint. So wavelet-based sparsity constraint is a part of compressed sense, whereas AI-based sparsity constraint is a part of your deep learning. So what exactly do I mean when I say sparsity? So sparsity in general means very little of anything. But because we are talking in terms of imaging, it means there are multiple black pixels which have a value of 0, and you have a few gray or white pixels which have value other than 0. So now because the black pixels have a value of 0, you're nullifying them. And now because the gray and white pixels have different values, you're using those values and you're using the information from them to get your final image. The same concept is based in your AI sparsity constraint. The only difference is it is using deep learning. So to simplify what sparsity means, let's take an example of a desert and a jungle. So if you want to spot a mango tree in a desert or in a jungle, which one would be easier to identify? It would be in a desert. Why? Because you don't have a lot of trees. But whereas in a jungle, you have multiple trees and it takes time for you to identify which one is a mango tree, right? The same thing happens here. So if you have a lot of black, white, and gray pixels, everything having a value other than 0, it is difficult to find out the pixels that have most information for your image formation. Whereas if you convert these pixels into the wavelet form, where you have your black pixels in the value of 0 and your gray and white pixels for the value of 1 or 2 or 3, it's easier to find out those values for the contribution to your image formation. So that is what sparsity means. It is a bit complicated, but I'm just trying to simplify and make you understand what it means. Okay, moving on. So how do you think deep learning can be integrated into this MRI imaging chain? So there are 3 steps. That is deep learning during post-processing, deep learning during image generation, and deep learning during channel combination. So what do I mean by all of these? So once you acquire your data, okay, you have your reconstruction pipeline followed by your post-processing. So in your reconstruction pipeline, so in general, in the conventional way, what happens? Once you acquire data, it is Fourier transformed before you get your final image, right? Same thing happens here. It is going through the fast Fourier transformation. Then there is your channel combination, which is your multiple receiver coils. So all of these receiver coils combine all of their sensitivities to gather all the information to get your image. So once you get the required amount of information, you're going to generate that image using image generation. And then it is then followed by your post-processing for your final image. So what happens during channel combination? Channel combination is when your sparsity constraint comes into place. So all of your gray and white and black pixels, all of them, the gray and white pixels, they are used for the information required to form your image. And then to generate that image, you're using your iterative reconstruction. So what happens? It uses the phase information that allows iteration between your AI processed imaging and the data that is generated from your K-space. And then finally is your post-processing technique so in this one, how is deep learning used in post-processing is it basically is an additional step. So what happens? Any system that has an access to the images can use deep learning in the post-processing step. Moving on, this is just to summarize what is the purpose of AI and what are the components and how is it advantageous. Well, although it is very useful to use AI, but there are certain limitations because it cannot be used in certain sequences, and with certain MRI settings, it will not be compatible. So as you saw in my previous slide, when I mentioned you about the techniques, the term that was used was called acceleration techniques, right? So why is it called acceleration technique? Is because can you see acceleration here? So that is what is acceleration. So what is acceleration? So you have all your 3 techniques, your sense, your compressed sense, and your AI compressed sense. So once you select your AI compressed sense, you get an additional drop down that says reduction. So you can change your values from 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4. But obviously, the more your reduction factor is, it will affect your resolution and your SNR. So we always have to keep it as much as required. So what exactly is the acceleration factor? It is nothing but it determines how much data is skipped during the acquisition process. So if your reduction factor is, suppose if it is 4, then your K-space is acquired in your every 4th line. So you're skipping line 1, 2, 3 and acquiring 4, skipping 5, 6, 7, acquiring 8, skipping 9, 10, 11, acquiring 12. So that is how it works. So that is what is acceleration. So now what are the applications of SmartSpeed AI? So we have the SmartSpeed motion free. So it is used to conduct motion robust scanning with the same scan time, with the same contrast as its non-motion corrected equivalent. Then we have the SmartSpeed 3D free breathing. It can be used in 3D T1 weighted scans, which focuses on motion free as well as eliminating the need for breath hold. Then we have got the SmartSpeed implant. So it is used in presence of metallic implants in the patient body, but you're not increasing the scan time. You are still acquiring with your regular scan time and sometimes even lesser. The fourth one is SmartSpeed diffusion. As the name states, it's used for diffusion weighted images, gives you high quality diffusion images, which are also acquired faster. So what do we understand by Philips SmartSpeed motion free? So as the name suggests, motion free, meaning even if there is slight motion in the images due to the patient, the final images, what you see on your screen or what you acquire will look motion free. And how does that happen? So it uses the acceleration of compressed sense reconstruction, right? And it also uses the multi-vane strategy. So what is multi-vane? Multi-vane is nothing but a motion correction technique. And what does it use? It uses multiple blades in the case space. We'll see what that is, okay? So that is what I was talking about, the multiple blades in case space. So as you see, this is how the images are acquired in the case space. So your blades are running all in the manner. So they're going parallel, they're going slant, they're going horizontal, and the inverse slant, right? So what happens? What is common in all of these? So when you combine all of these blades, the center of the case space is being sampled, is being oversampled. So your center here is being oversampled because your lines are running through in all of the acquisitions. So what happens? Because of the oversampling, the reconstruction is better because in spite of the motion being present, because of oversampling, the motion is not visible. So what happens when you're using the SmartSpeed AI? The motion is detected in all of the acquired blades and the blades are corrected. So you can see there is a difference in the angulation slightly in your first blade here and your blade here. So with the corrected blades, it is then fed into the Philips SmartSpeed engine. The engine what we saw before with your coil sensitivities and your background information and your sparsity constraint. So your final sampling pattern is where all of the blades are overlapping each other, but your center of the case space is being oversampled. So the reconstruction is better. And in spite of motion being present because of the patient, your final image appears to be motion free. And all of this is happening in lesser time as well because you're using compressed sense where you're using the undersampling. That's the variable density undersampling along with your iterative reconstruction and sparsity constraint. So that is the example of a shoulder scan, which is along with your. So this is your conventional acquisition, the Cartesian acquisition, in which the case space lines are filled in a grid format, and in the Philips SmartSpeed, where there is an undersampling of the case space data. So as you can see slight motion here. Now this is because of the patient and slightly because of the breathing of the patient. But whereas with the Philips SmartSpeed AI, you can see the image appears to be motion free. You can also see the difference in the time. So the shoulder scan that takes 2 minutes 26 seconds is now taking 2 minutes 20 seconds. Now even the 20 seconds is very much important because you're having like 5 to 6 sequences and you go down 20 20 20 on each, you're still saving a lot of time. Moving on, let's move to what is Philips the SmartSpeed 3D free breathing. So again, as the name suggests, free breathing is used for sequences where, especially when you're scanning your abdomens, where you're letting the patient breathe freely, but you're still acquiring images that appear to be motion free. So what does free breathing combine? So it combines radial sampling along with 3D vane. 3D vane is again a free breathing technique. So you're combining again this with the compressed sense for undersampling. So the sampling strategy for 3D free breathing is nothing but your radial stack of stars. So why is it called the radial stack of stars? Because it is combining your radial sampling method along with your Cartesian sampling. So it samples in both your in-plane direction, that is your kx and ky directions. So your in-plane directions would be kx and ky, whereas your slice direction is your kz. Okay, so that is your radial stack of stars. So you see your kx here, your ky direction here, and your kz. So this is your radial sampling in plane, and this is your kz is through the plane, as you see. Now, don't get confused between both these images. They are the same, but it's just the way you're looking at them is different. So you see your kx, ky, and your circle, what is here is your kz and fluid plane. That is your through the plane. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're covering all 360 degrees while you're sampling the k-space. So you're not skipping any information. You are getting all of your information, but you're also using compressed sense. So using undersampling, but you're still getting your final image. Example of how your radial stack of stars looks like. So it mentions scan time reduction because the number of spikes what you're using here is lesser. So that is your original how you acquire with your radial stack of stars. You can see there are a number of spikes going in radial and through the plane. But to reduce the scan time, what you're doing is you're reducing the number of spikes, that is your radial and your through plane sampling. Example of a liver scan using 3D frame breathing. So image-wise, you may not be able to see a lot of difference, but time-wise, you can see with the conventional 3D, you're acquiring it in 1 minute, 14 seconds. Whereas with your smart speed, you're acquiring the same in 34 seconds. Moving on to smart speed implant. So we do encounter a lot of patients with orthopedic implants. So all of you must be aware of the technology OMAR, that is the orthopedic metal artifact reduction technology. So this is specifically used for patients with metallic implants. So now, how does smart speed help in this? So now, because there is a image distortion because of the presence of implants in OMAR, what you use are two separate techniques. That is your view angle tilting and your slice encoding for metal artifact correction. So in your view angle tilting, what you're doing is you are applying an additional gradient in your readout direction, but the magnitude of that gradient is equal to your initial RF pulse. So what happens, because the magnitude is similar to your first RF pulse, the motion gets cancelled out because of the implant. The distortions get cancelled out. And as for slice encoding metal artifact correction, in this you're using an additional phase encoding. So in view angle tilting, it reduces the artifact in the in-plane mode, that is your kx and ky, whereas in your CMAC, in your slice encoding metal artifact correction, you're reducing the artifact in the through plane. So both in your slice select and your readout gradient. Now, how does that happen? Because you're increasing the number of phase encodings. But what happens when you increase the number of phase encoding gradients? Your number of signal averages increase. So as a result of increase in your signal averages, what happens to the scan time? It increases. So more the NSA, that is your signal averages, more is the scan time. So now how is smart speed helping here? Because you're using the concept of compressed sense again. So you're undersampling the data, but you're using your OMAR along with it. So that's the example of conventional and smart speed implant. So that's a scan. That's a knee scan. You're using the acceleration. I'm not sure how much. Yeah, the acceleration factor is 2.2 in the first one using your conventional acceleration. That is your sense. So the knee scan time is 6 minutes 27 seconds. Whereas while you use your smart speed implant, your reduction factor is down to 4. So your time has gone down to 3 minutes 49 seconds. The last one is smart speed diffusion. As the name suggests, it helps in diffusion weighted images. So it improves the SNR but it also improves your resolution in shorter scan times, and it also reduces the distortion because you're using EPI readout. So again, the ecoplayer imaging is integrated with your compressed sense, your undersampling data, but you're also using your ecoplanar imaging for your sampling pattern. That's the example for smart speed diffusion. So with your conventional acceleration, um, that you can see the image, it's a bit noisier compared to smart speed diffusion. Whereas the second one, you're looking for prostate, conventional acceleration, and your smart speed diffusion. You can see the difference in time. Um, while the conventional one takes 1 minute 46 seconds, with the Philips Smart Speed AI, it takes you 1 minute 17 seconds. So this is just a table to compare all of the techniques. So your ancestors, that is the sense and compressed sense, followed by the newest addition, that is your Smart Speed AI, also known as the AI compressed sense. It's just differentiating between the speed, quality, when to use it, and the limitations. So finally, what is the clinical impact of AI in MRI? It's your improved patient experience. So faster scans reduces discomfort in patients, high diagnostic accuracy. You're not compromising on your diagnostic efficacy. So you're keeping the radiologist happy as well. And your operational efficiency, quicker scan times, and less patient waiting times. So to conclude, AI-driven acceleration techniques like AI, they improve the image speed and quality, and they are very, very efficient for patient care while reducing scan times and also improving your image quality. That was all for the AI in MRI. I hope you got what the idea is and how AI is being used in MRI. If you have not understood anything, it's perfectly understandable. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, please post it in the chat box. Ma'am will answer it for you. Ma'am, there is a question in the chat box.
Yeah. So the question states if it's useful in functional MRI too. Right. So as of now, it's being used mostly with the routine scans. So as with functional MRI, there are still certain limitations that have been there. So as of now, no, I myself haven't used any in functional MRI, but there are certain limitations to using it because they are definitely specific examinations when you talk about functional MRI, and you do not want to interfere with your final output. So my answer to that question would be, till now I haven't used it, but I'm not sure if they are planning to introduce AI for functional MRI. Right. So how AI helps in 3D images. So I did mention about 3D imaging when I spoke about free breathing. So for free breathing, you're using 3D T1 sequences. So what happens is you're letting the patient relax in the scanner while they breathe freely, but you're also acquiring images. So you get your final images of example of your abdomen. So all of them are 3D. So it definitely helps because you're reducing the scan times, but you're also keeping the patient comfortable. How will it impact the future in radiography techniques? If you ask me my point of view on the future in radiography techniques, it is definitely very, very helpful because the main thing of AI is that you're reducing the scan times, you're increasing the patient comfort. But it may so happen that because of some of the patient conditions, while you're using AI, it may not be very helpful. So this, I have encountered this multiple times when in my work here. Depending on how the patient condition is, depending on what they're suffering from, and suppose you're scanning a whole spine for a patient, and they are suffering from MS, and they're very weak, they have nothing in their body left, and suppose you use AI, you're reducing the scan time for such patients. What happens is the images appear to be very grainy, and you're missing some of the diagnostic information. But I'm not saying this happens all the time. So you just need to know how efficiently you need to use AI and how to use it on what kind of patients you're dealing with. I hope that answers your question.
If there are no further questions, we can move on to our next speaker for today. Thank you, ma'am, for explaining us the advanced techniques, how acceleration techniques and how its components help us to get improved patient experience and a high diagnostic accuracy rate. Thank you so much, ma'am.